Yeah, absolutely. Hey, good to be here with you, brother. There was several years ago when we started a program at our church during the holidays, and we called it the Holiday Gifts program, or rather, Holiday Lights program, and it stood for Love and Giving Holiday Treasures. And we decided that we wanted to sponsor a couple of families in our area that were really hurting and really needed help around the holiday time. I know a lot of churches have similar programs, but we really wanted to directly impact families. We didn't want something to be just kind of, through someone else. And so somehow or another, we found out about a family that was really suffering and had gone through a difficult time, single mom, 3 kids. And our church family just really took upon that initiative and got all these gifts together and food and I asked her, I said, well, can we meet? I want to meet you. I want to talk to you. I want to get to know you. And so we did. We met in a parking lot, public area, and just packed her car full of all this stuff. And she was just super, super thankful and super grateful. And sometimes things like that, nothing comes from it. That's the last time you ever see them. But some things had happened in her life at that moment, to where she just broke down crying in that parking lot, so thankful that someone cared and loved her family enough to reach out to them. And some pretty cool things happened after that, um, just from that encounter that we had with her through this program. We'll
Awesome.
talk about
Yeah.
that later.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, tell us who you are, your name, where you're from, and an interesting fact.
My name is Jacob Rutledge. I'm the minister for the Dripping Springs Church of Christ in Dripping Springs, Texas. My wife, Jessica, and I have been here for about 6.5 years, working with the church here. We have 3 kiddos. We have Natalie, Easton, and Lincoln. And we actually had 4. Our son Everett, we lost him this last year. And but we've been blessed in so many ways over this ministry and over this time. And interesting fact. Hmm, that's a hard one. I'm a huge Texas Longhorn fan. That's not very interesting, except for maybe my Sooner brothers and sisters that are listening. But yeah. So I'm pretty boring guy. I like to read, drink coffee, and study the Bible. So
Yeah, well, the Bible's exciting, man.
yeah, yeah,
Especially if you apply it in your life.
yes,
It's pretty boring if you just sit there and never share it, never talk about it. But if you
yes,
start talking about the Bible, you're going to be excited about it
yeah,
because
absolutely.
you'll definitely. Well, so tell us a little bit. This show's about strategies and how to
Mhm.
share our faith bravely. So, what are some like 3 strategies usually we go with to help people share their faith bravely?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me personally, I'm really trying to I've always had an interest in evangelism, and to me, one of the most difficult parts of evangelism for me isn't sitting down and doing a Bible study. I think that's overall pretty easy, to be honest with you. I mean, you have so many different tools, but the biggest struggle, in my opinion, is transitioning from, "Hey, how was the football game on Sunday?" to, "Hey, where are you going eternally?" That's a really hard transition to make. And we recently had John Rowe. Did you have? I think John Rowe's maybe
Yes.
been on the
Yeah, he's been
program.
on here. Yeah, he's been on
We
here.
recently had him come and do an evangelism seminar, and that's well, I can't recommend him enough. It was really good. But one of the things that he talked about was that transition is that, how do you go and get a gospel conversation started? And one of the things we talked about was number one, just I think showing interest in investing in someone, I think is really the big step when it comes to this, is because the vast majority of people, if we're being honest, do not care about the people that they walk past every day, right? I mean, hey, how's it going? Good. How are you? Thanks for the Coke. All right. See you later. It's these very casual, often meaningless conversations that we have with people. And if you actually take the time to stop what you're doing, to not look at your phone, to look at somebody in the eyes and really invest in their life and ask them about their life, it shows immediately that you have a genuine care and concern for them. Now, if you're just trying to get a Bible study set up or trying to get somebody in the pew, they're going to be able to tell that. I mean, it's not a facade that you can put on. You genuinely have to care about people. So I would say the first tactic, if you want to view it in that way, is just to genuinely care about people, to ask them about their life. And people can open up pretty easily to you. Especially for me, they find out I'm a minister, which I don't usually offer that very freely, not because I'm embarrassed. It's just that sometimes people get a little bit guarded, but then after a while, they begin to open up to you a little bit more. They want to talk to you about their problems. So I would say invest in that. Number two, I would say don't be afraid to ask scary questions. Questions are a big part about evangelism. That's something John talked about. And I found that to be true as well. You got to get people thinking. Before we started, you were talking about asking people, what are you living for? Well, most people don't take the time to think about that. Now, they do think about it when they're laying in bed at night and they don't have anything to distract them, or they don't have anything to kind of numb their conscience. But they don't usually in today's world. So we've got to be brave. We've got to be daring enough to ask these somewhat uncomfortable questions and ask them, hey, if you were to die today, where would you go? If Jesus was to come back, are you absolutely sure that you would go to heaven? That's one of the tactics that John uses in his workshop. And you find ways, and I guess this would be my third one when it comes to those questions and conversations, is you find connective points. You gotta listen. You really gotta listen to people, because they will generally give you something that you can launch off of, and talk to them about the gospel. I recently was talking to a girl at a gas station, and she said something along the line, or she said that she had come down to our area because of a very state-of-the-art rehab program that we have in the area. And she said something like, I think God works in mysterious ways, or something like that. She mentioned God. I said, oh, so are you a believer? And she had a cross necklace on, and she said, yes, I am. She goes, I'm Native American. She said, and we believe in the Great Spirit, which there's some similarities to Christianity. And I said, really? I said, well, do you believe in heaven and hell? She said, yes. And I said, so, do you believe that if Jesus were to come back today, or if you were to die today, do you believe you'd go to heaven? Well, absolutely. I'm a good person. I try to be a good person. It is ironic to me that she was in a rehab program, and which is, I was happy for her that she was in that, but she couldn't see that, like, she has struggled, right? Like, we all try and justify our actions. And it's hard for us to see our own sinfulness. But unless someone is willing to ask those questions, she wasn't offended at all that I asked her those questions. Now, some people aren't going to want to have anything to do it. But if you're listening between the lines, if you will, generally people will give you an in into their life to where you can say, hey, Jesus can help with this if you'll let him, And so it requires people like me to stop talking for a little bit, which is tough to do sometimes, and just listen to people.
That's the hardest part, is listening.
Yeah,
because you have this good news. I mean, with good news, you don't really want to keep it inside if it's really good news.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, and you can find out, like, a lot of times I used to take the tactic that I had to convince people that they were a sinner, or that they were depressed or in sadness or unsatisfied, all that stuff. I don't have to do that anymore, because I know that the Bible is truthful, and it says we all know that we're lost. Like, we all know we're in darkness. So you have to have that trust, or like you said, truly listen, get that trust. And when you have that trust, there have been people who talk to me and they'll say, I'm fine, man. I'm good. Like, when I see God, we're going to be great. And then I get to know him, and then they trust me, and then they say,
You've been listening to Be Brave. The world right now is a crazy place, and sharing the love of God is the most important thing we can do right now. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit up gobebrave.org. Remember, the love of God is the most powerful force in the universe. Learn how to love like Jesus. See you next time.